Right, time to do our power-up session. Osley, you with me right now? Do our Super Saiyan power-up for Choose Your Own Adventure. Hello, you wonderful little demons. Jules here for WhatCulture.com. Back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval-themed format where you, yes, you, the lovely person who is probably sitting at home in this lockdown thinking, does talking to myself mean that I've completely lost it? Don't worry, it hasn't. Thank you very much, Jules. You get to decide what list that I dole out to you like fine slop onto the lunch tray of life, and you're in my cafe for some reason. No smoking. Anyway, we have the Black Doc to thank for their suggestion of 10 lesser-known video games that deserve remasters or remakes. And it's the thing, in this current day and age, there are tons of remasters and remakes abound, and that's only a good thing because they allow newcomers to enjoy games of old with fresh graphics, updated tweaks, and hopefully a lot of fixed bugs. I just started thinking about the Warcraft 3 Reforged one. That was none of those. That was goddamn awful. But we're not talking about that today because those are big games. Those are ones that people knew about in the past and they got a little dusting off. I want to talk about the games that, well, for lack of better words, they've fallen by the wayside. But we should dig deep and come up with these gems once more. So that's what we're going to do today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 lesser-known video games that deserve remasters. Oh, and also don't forget to submit your suggestions for next week's episode down in the comments section below or here in the live chat. But until then, let's get on with the list, shall we? Clap, clap. Number 10, The World Ends With You. So here's the thing, I really enjoy the Kingdom Hearts franchise. I mean, not enough for me to actually try and remember any of their names, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. However, when I'm playing through it and watching Donald dole out a dicking or watching Goofy yuck someone up, it does sit at the back of my mind. I'm thinking, what happened to The World Ends With You? I mean, they came out kind of around the same time, but it seems like this game was dropped in favour of Kingdom Hearts when Sora's sales started, well, completely soaring. Which is a shame because both are about the same in terms of completely hog-wild yet lovable stories, and in fact, The World Ends With You is arguably the more intricate of the two. You play as some spiky-haired dollop who's actually dead, and you've got to fight against super tough enemies across a week in order to prove that he deserves to be alive, which, you know what, as a message about never giving up and the importance of self-worth is pretty amazing. Plus, the fighting mechanics alone were just so deliciously rich. They were quite complex. It was on a dual screen at the time, which was basically amounted to trying to like pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. But if you nailed it, ooh, chef kiss. Yeah, spicy. Number 9, Dragon Quest Monster Joker. I honestly don't understand why this game franchise hasn't got more love across its tenure. I mean, for starters, it's Dragon Quest, which is, you know, Big Barry Beef Boy, but then on the other side, you've got the ability to mix that with Pokemon. What is not to love? You can capture slimes and have them fight for you. Slimes! It's like every Dragon Quest fan's wet and rather sticky dream. However, outside of Japan, it seems that very few gave an actual toss about it. So much so that the third game in the Joker trilogy didn't even get an English release. So it's up to this English-speaking audience to give this game the love that it rightly deserves. I mean, you only need to look at the visuals that Osley has put up on the screen. Big shout out to you. Little kiss for you there, little biscuit. Put that in your pocket. Eat that whenever you want.
Oh, thanks, mate.
The sprite work is amazing. The plot line, because it's a Dragon Quest thing, is actually really decent, and it's got RPG-like mechanics, meaning that there's actual depth to it, and just get it in my face. But unfortunately, the only way that we're going to get this game to come from overseas and then be localized into English and then be remastered is if we pray to Slime Jesus. So what we're going to do right now, boys and girls, we're going to pray. We're going to pray to Slime Jesus. Let's just call him down there. O Slime Jesus, we call thee from the heavens to answer but one prayer, to remaster Dragon Quest Joker. It's a very specific quest, I know, but please, in Slime Jesus we praise. Slime Jesus. Number 8, Silent Bomber. Utah Fate, what an absolute boy popper! Seriously, this Splatoon sideburn sporter is the main character of the best 7 out of 10 game that you will ever play, ever. Silent Bomber. Because seriously, every time I talk about this game, it sets off an explosion in my crotch because it is Big Billy Banterbus from start to finish. It stars you as a war criminal who's on this kind of Suicide Squad-style mission to take down a monstrously large space station using the least practical weapons ever for fighting on a space structure. Bombs. Like, lots of bombs. Like, so many bombs that Bomberman himself gets on the phone and he's like, all right, mate, do you want to calm down a little bit? So why does this deserve a remaster? Well, for one, its story is absolutely hilarious. For two, its action is ludicrously over the top with you lobbing explosives everywhere and taking on massive bosses. And also, because it has one of the most bumping video game soundtracks that I have ever heard. Now, usually I would do a musical montage with my friend Osley and obviously James, but when the music's this good, there's only one thing for it. It's time for a dance party. Are these kicking in yet, mate?
No, mate.
How many have you taken?
I don't know.
20 quid for a bottle of water? Yes, mate. Number 7, Maniacs. Okay, so I've got a question for you. Have any of you at home played Micro Machines V3 on the PlayStation 1? I'll answer that for you. Of course you have, because you are not an animal. Also, it was a ludicrous smash hit. But what if I were to tell you that there was another tiny-based racer that was actually even better? I know, shocking, right? Sacrilege? Maybe. But am I right? Also maybe. Let's talk about Maniacs. Say hello to Maniacs, which held much of the same gimmicks as Micro Machines, with the top-down racing aesthetic and the victory coming to those only who managed to stay on screen, but this time it was teeny tiny people, and this cast deserves some real love, because with the likes of speedrunners proving that this concept still has legs, pun intended, and a distinct desire for party games that can be played online and off, this could be a smash hit just waiting to happen. Plus, I mean, just look at this cast, they're adorable, right? Well, maybe not More, who kind of looks like me at the club when the vitamins have kicked in. Number 6, Star Wars Dark Forces. Okay, so let's just address this right off the bat. Star Wars is pretty much one of the biggest franchises ever, so when I say that one of their titles from their video game library is lesser known, take that with a heavy dose of salt. But still, Dark Forces is so bloody brilliant that it deserves a remaster. It was so quick and fluid that it makes me yearn for the old school shooters of days gone by, and there was nothing as satisfying as taking on a squad of stormtroopers and coming out the other side with a shred of health left. Plus, the story was so good that it got the old novel treatment and has become a firm fan favourite amongst the community. Therefore, if this game was given just a few touch-ups or a full rework, there is a lot of gold to mine here. With the Star Wars license growing each and every year, and the games of old doing incredibly well on platforms like Steam and good old games, now is the time to remind people of a galaxy long, long ago that was very, very bloody good. Number 5, Consortium. So despite coming out in 2014, Consortium, or Consortium if you want to get absolutely crazy about it, seeing as the game was spelled in all capitals, was a game that meant business. It's just a shame that it didn't do any business because its sales were pretty poor and it flew completely under the radar. Following a theme that many have compared to Mass Effect, Consortium sees you play out what is essentially a murder mystery plot in space. I think it was Colonel Mustard in the library with the death laser. It genuinely felt like you were the captain of your very own Star Trek episode, and the game has tons of different endings and an overwhelming amount of dialogue options to go through. And to be honest, there's not much work to be done to this game to get it looking as sensual as the gameplay is. All you'd have to do is just iron out the bugs and just maybe smooth off some of the edges, because seriously, you could cut beef on them, and you're pretty much there. It's the minimal amount needed for a remaster. So if you're looking for a Doctor Who meets Sherlock set in the Star Trek universe, then Consortium is definitely the game for you. Number 4, Overboard. So listen up, if you've not played Overboard, then this egg daddy has just got one question for you. Do you hate fun? Because if you've not taken part in this pirate pixel adventure game, then you might well be one of the most boring people that I've ever met. That was a bit harsh, but seriously, Overboard is a great laugh. You see, it's one part puzzle game and one part arcade naval battle game, and sees you sailing all manner of ships through a comically large amount of traps and obstacles as you track down treasure and blast other sloops right in their poop decks. But this was nothing compared to how much fun you'd have with the multiplayer, because you and up to 5 mates could gather round and just blast hell out of each other, flinging semen all over the place. I realise how that sounds, but trust me, Overboard is that bloody good. Give me the remaster, give it to me now. Let me have online play with my pirate mates, just so I can just make tons of pirate jokes. Give it to me now. Number 3, Gregory Horror Show. So Gregory Horror Show somehow manages to make a cartoonish and otherwise traumatic experience a whole lot of fun. The game itself is utterly bizarre, seeing as you are playing as guests of a hotel and you're tasked with stealing souls back from death itself. It's quite heavy, and when you look at the visuals, really creepy, like those scenes out of Courage the Cowardly Dog, you know, the ones that really left that mark on you. It's like that, but in a video game. But you know what the best part is that they tried to market this game to kids. Look at this and tell me that this is something that you'd want your kids to play. Horrifying. It looks like the nightmares that Five Nights at Freddy's would have. But this, however, is exactly what makes this game so great. It's creepy, campy, but just so enticing. And when you look at it from a marketing perspective, it's a no-brainer. Horror, comedy, cartoons, sign me the hell up, bruv. Number 2, Parasite Eve. With the Resident Evil remakes being absolute smash hits in terms of sales, it has unquestionably proven that there is a market for these types of games. And while a lot of people are now clamoring for the likes of Dino Crisis, hoping that we'll finally get to see that being remade in the same engine as well, which I definitely hope will happen, there has been a lot of people that have ignored an otherwise brilliant Resident Evil clone made by Square Enix that just, well, it sets my nipples to erect. I'm speaking, of course, about Parasite Eve, a game which managed to blend RPG elements with survival horror in a way that felt distinctly different from what Resident Evil was trying to do, while honouring what made Square Enix so bloody great at the time. I mean, you could even ditch the pseudo turn-based combat from the original if you wanted to update things and go fully into an action game. And this, coupled with the excellent enemy design and ludicrous story, would surely see the game do absolute numbers if it ever got to market. Come on, Square Enix, I know that you've got it in you. Release the tentacle demon from your basement once more, and maybe we'll forget that Final Fantasy All the Bravest exists. I'm still not over it. And number 1, Custom Robo Arena. So the reason that Custom Robo Arena might be unknown to the majority of you watching this is because the series as a whole has had a bit of a weird life cycle. It started off as a smash hit in Japan, and then nothing really much happened with it. In 2004, a North American GameCube version was released, but obviously the GameCube had a really small install base, so didn't do many numbers there. And the Europeans, we'd had to basically either import the game at a heavy cost, or learn a new language, or wait until 2007, 8 years after the original was released, to get our copy. And by that time, in 8 years different, a lot have changed. A lot had changed, and so when we were playing it, we were just like, what's the fuss about? But this is the thing, this is why it desperately needs a remaster, because it deserves the chance that it never really got, to come back in and just be like, alright boys, pull up your pants, let's get serious. This game is an absolute gem, letting you customize your robot and then taking on other toasters and sending them to the scrapyard, and who wouldn't want the chance at building War Bastard from Spaced? I know I would. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 lesser-known video games that deserve remakes, or at the very least, remasters. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, as well as your suggestions for next week's episode. If you want to chat to me further on the social medias, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0. You can also catch me at Live and Let's Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I do loads of streams on board games, video games, and everything else in between. It'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing, and that is, at the time of recording, there are a ton of turbulent things that are going on in the US right now, and they are being not helped at all by the current global crisis that was going on before this. So I just want to check in and make sure that my friends over the pond are safe and well. As a human, we all deserve love, happiness, and success. It doesn't matter what your race, your creed, your sexual orientation is. At that base level, we desperately all need to be treated as such, with care and respect. And right now, if you are in a position where you are feeling like society is not pressuring you in these ways, then be there for the people that desperately need it. It's not about this whole all lives being equal thing. That is a given. But right now, a certain group, a certain demographic needs support and help. And if you are in a position to help in any way at all, then do it. It's not about punching down, it's about helping others up so that we are all equal in the long run. I hope that you're well, and I hope that you are treating your neighbour with respect and love. And that's all I have to say on the matter. Remember that you are awesome. Just never forget that. And I'll speak to you next week, all right? Peace.